Hello there, and welcome back to Bowman's Heaven History TV and a series of little videos to show us how to complete exam-style questions. Today's exam technique is describe questions. All right, how do we answer questions that start with describe? And I have an example for you here. Now, bear in mind, if you are watching this video attached to a little form with a question on it, this is probably not the question that you've been set on here. This is how you would go about any question. So you can see the question on here is describe two problems faced by the British public during World War I, and it is worth 4 marks. So where do we start with this? Well, we start with the question. Understanding the question is key to success in any examination. There are a few things we need to be looking at. Okay, 2 problems is it wants us to describe. 2 problems, not 1, not 3, but 2. Okay, 2 problems for who? The British public, very specifically the British public. Oh, really? 2 problems for the British public, but when? When do you want that? We want it in World War I. So it gives you a very obvious focus for you to beam in on and answer your question for this one. So have a look at your question that you've got in front of you if you're using this to help you with an exam question. What 2 problems for who and when? Okay, now this can fit to any period of time. For who and when. Have a look at that. If I continue with my example though, what would I then do? So once I've now understood the question, okay, first thing I'm going to do, think about what the problems were. Now in this part, I would make myself a little bit, on exam paper or what have you, a little bit of piece of paper, make some notes. What problems did the British public have during World War I then? So I've noted some down. They had food shortages, okay, a bit of rationing came in. They had air raids. There was the threat of invasion from the Germans. You had restricted freedoms, censorship, pubs getting shut. They couldn't buy binoculars and torches and things like that. There were shortages of workers because the soldiers having to go off to fight. Inflation, the price of goods went up, often by 100%. So I've got 5 issues there. Now, how many does it need me to answer? Take 2. So what will I do now? I will choose the 2 that I am most comfortable talking about. All right, choose the 2 that you know the most about. Now, we don't just sit down and then write everything we know. We need to have a structure. Okay, so remember, you have looked at which 2 problems in your question, not necessarily this question, and you've hopefully made a list of the problems you can remember from that period. Now, if it's only 1 problem, that's fine. You're going to write about 1 thing, okay? It's going to limit the amount that you can get in the exam for the mark, 4 marks, remember, but it is going to give you something better than nothing. So what are we going to do? We're going to use the P structure, all right? We've talked about this in school quite a lot. Maybe you've heard it as the peel with an L on the end. It's the same thing. What are we going to do? First of all, we start off by making the point, okay? One of the problems, you start as like firstly or secondly. So you might say firstly, the problem that the British public had during World War I was, and then you say which problem they had, okay? Then the evidence. You put a little bit of knowledge in there about the point that you've just made to show the examiner that you know what you're talking about. It is a describe question, describe with some of the problems. So you put the problem there, but actually it's not really just describe. You need to have second order concept in there. You need to say either the cause or a consequence, not too much about that, okay? But it needs some explanation, okay? How was it a problem? It says it was a problem. The question is, describe the problems. So you need to say how it was a problem or why it was a problem. And that then links it back to the question nicely and summarizes it. Now you need 2 of those, 2 PEE little things, 2 points made, okay? Very small PEE though for this one. We'll get to that in a second. So here's an example. It gets separated, this question, 2 marking brackets, a level 1 and a level 2. All right, so for if you're getting into the level 1 bracket, it's a pretty simple answer. You're getting 1 or 2 marks. You are basically just describing a couple of little things. You're going to make a couple of points. And here is an example. All right. Problems that they had were that places might get bombed by Zeppelins and that they had to introduce rationing for food shortages. You can see I've got 2. All right, 2 on here. And there is actually, there's your point, bombed and food shortages. There's your point. And you've put a little bit of knowledge in with the Zeppelins there and a little bit of rationing in there. So there's a tiny bit of knowledge and a bit in there. So you're going to get 1 or 2 marks for that, probably a couple of marks. Very, very basic stuff. All right. But it's a start, and you've shown you don't have to do very much to get those marks. You've got 2 points, and you've got tiny, not very much, but a tiny bit of knowledge knocked in there as well. So how do we get more? How do we up it? Well, our PEE structure will help us out here. So you can see what we have here. Firstly, let's take our little blue. The first problem, all right, was one of invasion and attack. So there's the point, all right? There is the point that has been made. Zeppelin airships attack London from 1915. So we've got, again, the Zeppelin, and they attack London from 1915. And planes drop bombs from 1917 onwards. So we've got a little bit of knowledge going on there. And then we have, this meant that no one was safe in Britain. Okay, no one in Britain was safe. So there's, for you, the question was the British public. This is saying it was a problem because it meant no one was safe. It wasn't just the soldiers. Where do we go next? Well, here's my next paragraph. If I can get my blue pen on again. Secondly, U-boats were sinking merchant ships. Okay, there's a second problem, which led to food shortages. All right, actually, food shortages. And what am I going to do on here? Well, it's actually quite interesting because my point also goes at the bottom there, very strangely. But I also have my knowledge, German U-boats. Okay. And as a consequence of this, you can see here they had to introduce rationing. It's a problem because goods couldn't come in. So you can see you've got your point, your evidence, and your explanation. They don't always have to be in that order, but it does make more sense if it's in that order. But when I mark this, I can see, you know, we've got some good knowledge in there, and we're going to give 4 marks for that. All right, not too hard for this paper. So we have some top tips for us to look at. Top tips for how to answer these questions. Firstly, read the question carefully, work out what it is trying to tell us or ask us to do. All right, it's describing. We need 2 points, and we need to see about who and who. Create a quick plan. What do you know about that? All right, you might make a list of problems that they had, and then you're going to choose just the ones that you can talk most about. You're going to use the P structure, and you are not going to write very much. It is only worth 4 marks. And when we get to GCSE, AQA examination style, the examiner's report says people write too much. For 4 marks, you shouldn't be spending very long on that at all. Definitely no more than about 5 minutes, and writing just a brief amount. So I'll have a go at that. If you are using this to do an essay and do one of these questions, have a little go. Don't forget to be a Heaven History hero. See you again soon. Bye.